1, 2, 3.
While our weekly shows are edited to time for broadcast on public TV and community radio, we offer to our supporting members and podcast subscribers full uncut conversations. The following is the full uncut one-on-one exclusive interview with Laura Flanders and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. A portion of it is featured in the first episode of our new season. That episode is Bernie Sanders and AOC fighting oligarchy with people power. Here's the trailer.
The oligarchs are enormously powerful, but from the bottom of my heart, I am convinced that they can be beaten.
Will the kind of change he's been talking about that is needed in the Democratic Party really happen?
Hey!
And will it happen in time to save what remains of U.S. democracy?
The elite class derives their power from dividing working people apart. The only division that is truly hurting our country the most is the endless greed by those at the very, very top, at the cost of everyone else.
Don't we deserve better?
Do you think people power is really any match for these unlimited billions of the billionaires?
I do. At the end of the day, I do believe, and when people stand together, we can beat them. I do believe that.
We can have an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you all very much.
In the coming week, we'll be adding to our podcast feed Bernie Sanders' speech he gave in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's speech she gave in Las Vegas, Nevada, on their Fighting Oligarchy tour. These audio exclusives are made possible thanks to our member supporters. And now, our exclusive, full uncut interview with Laura Flanders and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
In North Las Vegas, the city of North Las Vegas, with Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie, thank you so much for taking some time with us. It was great to be out there in the crowd with you here in Nevada. I've seen big crowds in Nevada before, out for Bernie. I would love you to talk about what you are adding to your pitch. You've been talking about oligarchy forever. Today you talked about autocracy. You talked about authoritarianism. How do they relate?
Oh, they relate very much. But this was I've been to Las Vegas a number of times. This was by far the largest turnout that we have ever had. And it tells me that people are really deeply worried about the movement toward oligarchy, which is manifested. You don't have to be a genius or an economist to understand that. You got Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world, going around trying to get 80,000 employees off of the Veterans Administration, which will lower the quality of care that our veterans receive, trying to dismember the Social Security Administration. These guys are going after Medicaid, they're going after education, they're going after environmental protection. They're on a rampage against the working families of this country, all so they can get their huge tax breaks that Trump has promised them.
So tax breaks are in the offing, but as you said, there's also authoritarian rule in the offing. What's the relationship?
That people who have the money want more and more power to be able to do what they want to do. So right now, it's not just they don't want to pay their fair share of taxes that I got. They really take it personally that we try to protect the environment, that we try to protect workers. Some of these oligarchs really believe they're like the divine right of kings. They have the right to rule. And how dare you say that workers could form a union in my company? Who do you think you are? It's my company. How dare you to suggest that we have to protect the environment, that we have to treat, all people equally, and we can't discriminate? Who do you think you are? So what we are seeing right now is a movement toward authoritarianism, where Trump, in an unprecedented way, is threatening the media, going after the media, going after the courts, going after the Congress. I'll tell you something. I think back to the civics classes that I took when I was a kid in elementary school, and I'm thinking, those founding fathers back in the 1790s, when nobody's fools, And they said, we're going to have a government with separation of powers, a executive branch, a legislative branch, a judiciary, so that no one person can assume all of that power. And Trump is working overtime trying to end the separation of power.
You've been talking about the need for radical reform inside the Democratic
Yes.
Party for
Yes.
decades.
Yes.
What makes you think the chances of that are different now, or aren't they?
I have no idea whether they are or not. You got leadership in the Democratic Party. It's a party.
It's at an all-time low in popularity.
Yeah, I know that, but it's a party that has virtually no grassroots support. No grassroots support. The Democrats can't bring out thousands of people. There are parts of the country where the label is really quite toxic. If you say, I remember talking to a guy, really nice guy. He was running, I think, in West Virginia or someplace. He was knocking on doors, and people were responding to him, and they said, "What party are you?" Something different. Get out of here. So for whatever reason, in many ways, the Democratic label is toxic, and it's a party that's controlled, as the Republican Party is, by big money, and a group of inside the Beltway consultants who have no idea what's happening in the real world. Will the party change? I have no idea. All I can do is rally the American people to stand up and fight back. And if Democrats don't change, people should start running as independents outside of the two-party system.
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, out of the struggle against slavery, the Republican Party was born, a new constellation of forces against an obvious immoral wrong. Could something like that happen today? Is that something you and AOC are maybe thinking about?
What I think is you have two parties that are way out of touch with the American people. And I think it's not me saying that, it's what the polling shows. More and more people are moving, registering as independents. Massive dissatisfaction with the two-party system. You have a campaign finance system which is disgusting, totally corrupt. Who thinks that it makes sense that one guy can spend $270 million to elect the president of the United States and then become the most powerful person in government? That's totally absurd. And I think people at the grassroots level know that the system is not working. They want change. Will the Democratic Party evolve and respond to that change? Your guess is as good as mine. All I can do is rally the American people to fight for at least a government that works for all and not just a few.
Well, so speak to that. The people I spoke to in the crowd were split. A lot of them felt that it was enough to come together with others, to feel like they weren't alone. Others wanted to hear from a fighter, and they believe that you're a fighter on their behalf. The third option didn't seem so clear. What can they do now? What do you think they can do
What we can do,
effectively?
look, Trump, to his credit, thinks outside of the box. His people think outside of the box. They're doing immense damage to this country in a way that no one thought that a president ever would do. And we have got to start thinking outside of the box too. I mean, what role do we play as citizens, as workers, as teachers, as doctors, as people concerned about the political process? So at the very least, what it means that we do not have the luxury of not paying keen attention and getting involved in the political process, whether it's your local school board, whether it's your city council, whether it's the state legislature. Pay attention, demand in a way that you haven't done before, that they start talking and representing the needs of ordinary people, not just the campaign contributors.
You and AOC today talked about together. Together is the only way we win. And the working people can't be divided.
Right.
And yet the right has been brilliant at
Yes.
dividing working people.
You're right.
Progressives, too, have often felt like there was a binary between so-called identity politics and class politics. Why is it so hard for us to understand the relationship between these two?
Well, to me, it's not. I mean, I think it goes without saying, I would hope that every progressive understands that we've got to fight against all forms of bigotry. And in fairness to the Democrats, as I said, they've been strong on women's rights, on gay rights, on civil rights. They have played a good role. But to my mind, I don't know how you ignore the reality that 60% of the people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck, that people are dying earlier than they should because of the stress that they are forced to live under, trying to figure out how they can feed their kids or pay the rent or go to the doctor. How do you ignore that reality? But to a large degree, I'm sorry to say, that Democrats have not been as aggressive in standing up to powerful corporate interests and say, you know what, you don't own this government. We're going to represent the working families of this country. Why are we the only major nation not to guarantee health care to all, despite spending twice as much? Why? Why do we pay, in some cases, 10 times more for prescription drugs than people in other countries? Why in other countries do they manage to allow their kids to go to college and graduate school tuition free? And somehow we can't do it. Why in other countries they understand how important childcare is for the development of little kids? And we have a system which is completely collapsing. All right? And all of that answer is that so much of government is geared to making the rich richer and allowing corporations to enjoy huge profits rather than worrying about the needs of ordinary folks.
Why did the Republican right in this case, before Trump, why were they leading with attacks on our education system, on what we're learning, critical race theory, and now they're banning diversity offices? What has any of that got to do with their agenda?
Well, I'll tell you what it does. I think Alexandria touched on this. If you go out and you say to people, do you think it's a good idea that we cut Medicaid and education and give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%? No. Go out on the street, ask people. I would say 95% of the people would say no. Do you think it's a good idea that the insurance companies and the drug companies make huge profits while 85 million people are uninsured or underinsured? We pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Go out on the street. 95% of the people say that's crazy. Of course that's wrong. So what they do, and they do it brilliantly, is they try to deflect attention away from the real issues that working people are worried about, are stressing out on, and get us deflected into fighting with each other and to dividing us up, based on where we were born or our sexual orientation or what it may be. So it's what they always do. It's what demagogues have always done. It's divide and conquer. United, if we stand together, we can win this thing. We can create a government that works for all, defeat Trumpism. But if we are divided, they win. And that's what they try to do.
And with respect, there is a telling of American history that leaves out how we've made change in this country. You talked about it. We've made change when we've addressed the inequalities, including slavery, including white supremacy, including the Gilded Age. Yes. Who do you look to in this moment to learn from, and who do you suggest people study more?
Well, I think I was just in my briefcase actually right now, rereading some of the works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who showed us that nonviolence, a powerful nonviolent movement, can overcome enormous power in the racist South. I think back, a personal hero of mine was Eugene V. Debs, who helped form the American Railway Union, ran for president 6 times in the Socialist Party banner, and worked really hard to try to bring people together. A great orator, and but I think the message of the moment is to understand that the vast majority of the American people do not think that we give tax breaks to the rich and cut Social Security or veterans programs. They don't. And our job is to work as hard as we can, and it's part of what this trip is about, this tour is about, to bring people, to get them involved in their own local communities. I think my staff got the names and emails of everybody who's here, and they're not going to hear the last of us. All right, so we'll be back to them, and we'll be urging them to start meeting, demand that their members of Congress respond to their needs, and build a kind of grassroots movement. What you said is right. Real change has always come from the bottom on up, never from the top on down. So,
you've been doing this kind of campaigning since you ran for mayor of Burlington, door to door, pounding the streets.
Yes, that's right.
While others take the route of campaign ads, TV advertising. Why? What are you?
My last campaign, we didn't run one TV ad. Got 63% of the vote.
So what do you get from this communicating with people? What do you hear? What are you hearing on this tour that fuels you?
Well, I love doing this, and it's, sometimes when you're inside the Beltway and you're talking to your colleagues, there's one world out there. And you come out here and there's another world, an entirely different world. A world of people who want to understand why things are happening, want to understand that there are some people with some power who actually understand that they are in pain and that they are struggling. And making that connection means the world to me personally. Very often when we have meetings smaller than this, and people start talking about what's going on in their life, people start crying, people can't afford health care, worried about their kids. But just to be able to relate with ordinary people, and it's a source of, that people are willing to open up about what's going on in their lives is something that I'm very grateful for. It's, I'm a stranger to many people in a sense, personally.
Do you think people power is really any match for these unlimited billions of the billionaires?
I do. Look, nobody in the world knows the power of these guys. I know it. But at the end of the day, I do believe that when people stand together, we can beat them. I do believe that.
If there was one thing you had somebody do when they left this rally today, what would it be?
To get on the phone and start meeting with your friends to figure the best way forward for your community. You might want to be demanding if you're in a Republican district especially. You might want to demand a town meeting as to, and hear from your Republican congressman as to why they think it's a good idea to vote for tax breaks for billionaires and cut Medicaid. Go to your city council meeting and ask why we're not doing more for affordable housing, why we're not demanding that the wealthiest people, large corporations, start paying their fair share of taxes. So the goal would be get involved in the political process in a way that you have never done before. Go outside of your comfort zone. All right?
Last question. Politicians, people in education, people in media, people in government, a lot of feeling very afraid, and they're acting in very afraid ways. You have managed to be brave for decades. How does it feel? How has your life been?
Well, I do what I do, but I would pick up on your point. I'm seeing just as a United States Senator, the timidity, the growing timidity of people. Gee, if I do this, what will the Trump people think? Maybe I'll stay silent. I'm seeing that.
Would you say they're afraid of violence?
Well, I don't know that's just violence. It's afraid of lawsuits. It's afraid of just being attacked verbally in ugly ways that we're not used to. And people are saying, who needs it? Why do I want to do that? So I will go along with, Mr. Trump, or I won't speak up. Not good. All right, on that note.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the full conversation from our episode, Bernie Sanders and AOC, Fighting Oligarchy with People Power, featuring a one-on-one interview with Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders that took place in Las Vegas, Nevada during his Fighting Oligarchy tour. Subscribers to the podcast will also receive in the coming week speeches given by both Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that they delivered on the Fighting Oligarchy tour. These audio exclusives are made possible thanks to our member supporters. Please join our members now by making a one-time donation or make it monthly. Members are invited to join Laura for our next virtual event, a town hall on April 6th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time with Laura, where she'll share details about our new season. All the details are at lauraflanders.org. And thanks again to all our member supporters.